In the year 1531, the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared in the most unexpected of places, Mexico, where missionaries had been trying for a couple decades now to spread the faith and really having not much luck. And she appeared to the most unexpected of people, a poor peasant named Juan Diego, a new Christian himself, not knowing really much about the faith. This strange place and this strange time was not at all strange or unplanned for by God. In fact, it was very deliberate and precisely at the right time. The missionaries, as I said, had not had much success from the time that they had gotten to Mexico. But all of a sudden, when Our Lady of Guadalupe, the Blessed Virgin Mary, shows up on a hill of Tepeyac near Mexico City, in just years, millions of people convert to Christianity. She came to a land in which human sacrifice was still the norm. The Aztec culture, paganism, had infected everyone. They knew not of Jesus Christ, and the efforts of the humble missionaries were not enough to convert the people. But Mary came, not with any violence, just peacefully, proclaiming a message, as she always does, that she wants people to draw close to Jesus, to her son, and he'll make things better. Build a church, she asked the bishop. And, of course, eventually the bishop does, after a miraculous sign of beautiful Castilian red roses in the middle of winter bloom on Tepeyac. Now, contrast this with what was going on in Europe at the same time. There, the Protestant Revolution was breaking out, and Christianity was being splintered. The church was losing members, left and right. By all accounts, the church was starting to fall apart in Europe. But notice what God does. At the same time that there is a great loss of sons and daughters to the church in Europe, there is the beginning of an explosion of the church in South America, Mexico, and the lands now known as the Americas. This is no coincidence. Indeed, Jesus does promise that the gates of hell will never prevail against his church. The church will never be conquered. Will never be defeated by secularism or Satan or our enemies. But that's not necessarily true in every place at every time. As the church was falling apart in Europe, and in some ways still continues to do so, the church was exploding in Mexico, and in some ways still continues to do so. What this tells us, brothers and sisters, is that we ultimately have a choice. Our Lady of Guadalupe gives us a choice. Christianity, Jesus, the way, the truth, and the life? Or falling apart, desolation, and downward slide into paganism and nothingness? And contrary to the message of our secular culture that tells us that it really doesn't matter what religion you practice, it's just not true. Think of the Aztecs practicing their religion before Our Lady of Guadalupe arrived. Human sacrifice was the norm, especially the sacrifice of children. It is no coincidence, therefore, that Our Lady of Guadalupe comes and she is pregnant. The belt around her waist that she wears in the model of an Aztec princess shows that she is in fact pregnant with Jesus. And as Mary does always, when she comes, she brings Jesus. This was a great message seen by the people at that time to know that they need to turn from the practice of the pagan evil gods in the Aztecs to the worship of the true God. How much do we still need to hear this message today? In many ways, the church is falling apart through the ongoing effects of the Protestant Revolution begun in the 16th century, and in many ways today, we are worse than the Aztecs. They at least offered their children as sacrifices to what they thought were gods. Today, we sacrifice our children to no God at all, merely to our own convenience. Will we heed the message of Our Lady of Guadalupe, offered 16th century, still new today? Turn to Jesus. Worship him properly. Build him a beautiful church, both buildings and in our hearts. Will we welcome Mary coming pregnant with Jesus this Advent? No coincidence that her feast day is in Advent, and she calls us to put away the paganism, the sacrifices to anything that is not God, stop sacrificing our children and our future to non-gods, and worship the one true God, Emmanuel, who is coming. And when he comes as he always does, through Mary. May we welcome her so as to welcome the Christ child this Christmas. God bless you.